we are back for the second day here in our sitting room in no other place than at Nampo Oesdag or Nampo Harvest Day. So we are in the PIC stand, in the PIC hall, and can you believe it? We are not talking only to our online audience, we are also talking to everyone passing by the stand, and I wish I could show you also the view from here to everyone passing also behind the cameras. So for this episode, I have a very special guest, Dr. Marianne Simmerling. Very much welcome to this sitting room of us today. Dr. Marianne is the Chief State Vet of Biosecurity for the Gauteng province. And we are going to discuss some topics on biosecurity, on compartmentalization, on cattle versus pigs biosecurity and the risks that's still there. All right, Dr. Marianne, let's get started. So first off, what is biosecurity?
And thank you, Marguerite, for giving me the opportunity to be here and talk about a topic that I'm very enthusiastic about, and I feel it's something that's super important in today's time, especially with what we are going through with the current FMD outbreak that we are facing in South Africa. For biosecurity, I feel it's a term that is used commonly these days by the media, by the public, and I sometimes wonder if they really know what biosecurity means and what it entails. So biosecurity is a couple of measures that we implement on farms in order to reduce the risk of infectious diseases spreading onto a property, within a property, or if you by some chance get a disease spreading off a farm property to the neighbors. And in practical terms, it's not just putting up a high pressure spray race in front of your farm. That is only one simple section of the complex biosecurity system. I'm also talking about proper waste management, mortality disposal, access control, movement of animals and people onto your farms, pest control. And in simple terms, it's actually prevention is better than cure. It's less costly, it's safer, and also less emotional than having to deal with a disease outbreak on your farm.
It sounds to me like biosecurity is a very loaded word. It entails a lot of action that must be in place. So you are the Chief State Vet for biosecurity specifically. So what is the role of a biosecurity vet specifically now in Gauteng?
Okay, so Gauteng is very fortunate. We are the only biosecurity vet for South Africa. Not one of the other provinces have the luxury of having a biosecurity state vet. I enforce the biosecurity onto the farms. At this stage, my primary role would be to working directly with the national officers using the veterinary procedural notice, the VPNs. I visit farming systems and I look at their current biosecurity that they have on the farm. It doesn't matter how much they have. I'm happy to help. And then we work together and I identify all the possible gaps where diseases can enter a facility. Then we have a discussion and I make recommendations in order for them to reduce the risk of getting an infectious disease on their farming system. Another section where we are involved is also the disease monitoring on the farms. So we monitor the state-controlled diseases, making sure the surveillance is up to standard. We are involved with some of the national laws, such as controlling animal movements. We issue movement permits. In Gauteng, currently, we do it for all the compartments for poultry and the pig side, and we monitor all the live animals moving onto and off properties. And then also, we know that diseases can also affect human beings, so it has zoonotic implications, and that's very important. So we also in this way deal with the public health sector and also the environmental officers and laboratories. And it's a very nice job. You get to meet a lot of people out there and help them.
It sounds like a very busy job, I
Very,
must say.
very.
So you spoke about the compartment and the monitoring of the compartment. What is compartment and how can a farmer get compartment status?
So a compartment is a single isolated farm, whether it being a pig farm, a cattle farm, a poultry farm, that operates under strict biosecurity management systems and to prove a specific disease-free health status in the end. Any farm can, with apply for it. In Gauteng specifically, they can contact myself, and we work through this VPN that is issued by the national offices, and we go through all the biosecurity, we implement the needed ones, and then we certify the farm for export purposes. Of course, I'll have to go through disease surveillance, do a couple of tests as well, and test negative on that behalf as well. And I think it's a very valuable system. You get a lot of people that can assist you in order to reducing your risk and staying disease free.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of admin that you also need to have in place. What will be the benefits if I am now compartmentalized for a farmer?
So the purpose of the compartmentalization is not only to protect the livestock, but it also plays an important role in food security and also with the trade. So what I've noticed is the other countries are very hesitant to getting products from South Africa if there's a disease. So with being a compartment, it gives you the opportunity to be considered as high a level of security, disease-free, and it makes them feel more at ease of getting the products from those specific facilities. So it opens doors for the people that do take part in this, and it will be beneficial for these farms for export and trading purposes.
Yeah, it influences definitely our export trades and global trades, basically.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the cattle and pigs. So, what is the relevance of biosecurity between cattle and pigs?
So this is a very important question, and it's very relevant. So it wouldn't just be with cattle and pigs; it's actually for all species, all livestock, in my opinion. So as we all know, there's some diseases that can be shared and infect both species, such as what we are dealing with now, the FMD, the foot and mouth disease outbreak. It can affect any cloven-hoofed animals, and these diseases can be shared between the species. So it can be transferred between pigs and cattle, sheep, goats, and even some of our game. So it's very important that biosecurity needs to be done at all livestock sections. Then also pathogen or species also plays different roles within the pathogens ecology. So for instance, pigs are great amplifiers for especially respiratory viruses, and they shed a lot of viruses. And then you get cattle where they are very susceptible and very hosts that can get easily infected. So if you have a mixed farming system, that can drastically affect or complex the entire outbreak, because the one can cause an infection, amplify it, maintain it, and that can also lead to or threaten the other species in the end. So that's why it's very important. And as I've mentioned as well, there's the zoonotic potential. So it's always possible for diseases to mutate, and it can become a human virus, and we don't want to go into that direction. So it's not just something that needs to be done on poultry and pigs, but it needs to be done by all people having livestock on their own properties.
Do you think that the biosecurity is up to standard where it's supposed to be?
I wish I can say yes, but unfortunately not. I think biosecurity is a term that is not always taken seriously, and one needs to go through something horrible in order to realize just how important biosecurity is. I feel from the poultry side and the pig side, they've learned after the avian influenza outbreak in 2017, suddenly their biosecurity increased drastically. The pigs after the African swine fever outbreak in big commercial farms. So I think that's when it became serious for them. And one can only hope that with this FMD outbreak that we are currently going through, that the farmers can become aware of biosecurity and the real biosecurity of what it is and start implementing it on their farms. And it's not just the farmers, it's actually the general public that needs to work together in this on this regards.
So some cattle farmers might think that they vaccinated the cattle and now they're off the hook, they're good to go. But do you think they really still know that they still impose a risk to other farmers?
So I think there's a lot of farmers out there that do think because they vaccinated their cattle that they are now fine and they can't get infected again. But they need to remember vaccines is only one small little section of biosecurity. And although the vaccine can drastically reduce infection on the farm, you shouldn't neglect your biosecurity in general because that is your first line of defense. I'm 100% sure that the state vets, when they do go out to the clients doing their vaccinations, that they are continuously educating the farmers and telling them that it doesn't give them 100% protection against infection and spread. And that's why they still enforce quarantines, do animal control. That's the reason why they do surveillance, and they still adhere to the cleaning and disinfection procedures that they implement on the farm. But in general, I do think that the farming system on the cattle side are not always aware about it.
How do you think can farmers sharpen their biosecurity even more on that's what they have already?
So if you look at the FMD outbreak now currently, there's quite a few things that farmers can do from their side. And it shouldn't be things that will cost them money. It's small things that they can implement from the very start. And some of the things they can do, because the main goal would be not to get in the infection on their property, will be to managing what they allow onto their property. It's your property. You decide what comes on and what goes off your property. I think it's very important for the farmers to realize that they shouldn't buy any animals onto their farm, their very expensive, high health farm, without knowing the health status of those animals. And I think that is one of the shortfalls in today, is a lot of people are just buying in animals from auctions, not even knowing what they are buying. And if you want to buy things in, you need to isolate and monitor those animals before you introduce them into your valuable herd. Yes. Another thing is controlling the people and the vehicles on your facility. That's something you can easily control. You decide what is necessary and what is not necessary. So if they don't have to enter your facility, don't let them enter. You can always have a meeting place off the farm. It doesn't have to be on your farm. And then boundary fences. I know it's very expensive, and that's something that is very valuable for even the cattle and animals and sheep and goats, for that instance, where they are kept together with any other livestock as well as game in the area. And for instance, with the pig compartments, one of the requirements is, would be a double fence, and it's a small section apart to prevent the nose-to-nose contact. That is specifically for the FMD, to avoid the nose-to-nose contact, or one fence with a solid corridor. And I know the luxury is not with the cattle, but we need to start thinking in that line, because that is also how animals get infected and how disease spread, is by direct contact. Then also the proper identification of animals and traceability, movement control, that will greatly assist the state vets. And now they can, they can get quicker to the animals where there's outbreaks, to controlling it, than having to now searching for animals and owners because there's no proper identification. And then cleaning and disinfection, that is something you can easily implement on your farms. If you need to give people access on your farm, give them a new suit, like a set of overalls and gumboots. So it's all things that it's easy to do and can lower your risk of getting a disease on your property.
Sure, that's a lot of pointers and I think easy achievable measures that you can put in place. Thank you for that so much. My last question to you will be a scenario. So let's say I'm a farmer and my neighboring farm has an FMD outbreak. And now the state vet is involved there and the state vet contacts me and says they want to do a surveillance on my farm as well. And me as a farmer will be very skeptical and be very scared that a person coming from the neighboring farm that's in an active FMD case wants to come onto my farm to do a surveillance. What advice do you have for farmers that's in those shoes?
You won't believe it, but I get this question quite a lot, and calls from the farmers asking me this because they are worried, and I would be too. So from the government side, I can say that my colleagues have a great system in place. We work with clean and dirty vets. So if you were on a positive farm, you would not be allowed to do the surveillance on the neighboring farms in order to search for like lesions or indications of disease. And if you were a vet that were doing surveillance and you get into contact with a positive, because that is possible, you will be considered as a positive or a dirty vet again. And then but that is now for the state vet side. But what I normally tell the farmers is that if you are scared, there are a couple of things that you can do as the farmer. You can always arrange with the state vet or the technician to meet them off the farm at a central point. You can allow them to park there. You can give them a set of overalls and gumboots, ask them to change there, and you can drive them to your farm and property and drive them around on your own property. This reduces the risk in them driving their own vehicles to their property. You are giving them new set of clothing and gumboots that prevents the private clothing and the shoes that you do not know where it has been lost and if it was washed properly from coming onto your property. And you can easily disinfect their equipment and lead them around on the farm. Yeah. And that immediately puts them to ease, their mind to ease, and then we can all work together. The state vet can get their work done without the farmer being worried in the end.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Marianne, for your time and for sharing all this valuable information with us. So this brings us to the end of this interview. If you watch up until this point, please remember to comment Biosecurity in the comment section below. Remember to like and subscribe to PigTalk on the YouTube channel to stay updated on all our talks about anything and everything pigs. Until next time.